All right. I think we are good to go. Good evening, everyone. Thanks you for joining us tonight. We're here to hear how grassroots groups can battle disinformation. I'm Candace Davis. I'm one of the co-leaders of Indivisible Truth Brigade, Illinois. Truth Brigade is a project of National Indivisible that was created in 2020 to counter disinformation, especially in social media. And Truth Brigade, Illinois began the next year to carry out the work of the National Truth Brigade. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group and a presence in social media. We sponsor a Zoom Truth Sandwich Shop every other Friday in which we discuss, create, and share messaging on social media. We also host meetings like this one to educate ourselves and others on fighting disinformation. Clearly, our job has become even more important under the new, confusing, and disinforming administration. So we're very pleased tonight to have with us an expert on social media and fighting disinformation. Nick Knudsen is the founder and executive director of Demcast USA. He's a career nonprofit manager turned digital and a movement leader. He's co-founder of Demcast USA, which lifts the voices of grassroots activists in the digital space. Nick has expertise in social media and digital relationship organizing, messaging, communications, coalition building, and persuasive writing. I'm going to let him tell you about his most recent expansion into the Substack and podcast world and ask him to share his best advice on fighting disinformation. When Nick's finished his prepared remarks, we're going to have a question and answer session with Nick and Linda Callis, one of our co-leaders. If you have questions for Nick, please put them in the chat. If you can put ASK in front of the question so we'll be able to see them better, that would be very helpful. And then after we finish that Q&A session, we're going to share with you a few tips on fighting disinformation and our Truth Sandwich format. We have some additional resources we'll share with you as well. We've got some slides with some links I think you'll appreciate. We're scheduled to go to 8:30 Central Time. This meeting's being recorded, and we will send out a recording of the meeting to everyone who registered, a link to the recording, and we will also send out Nick's slides and our slides with the links. So you'll get a chance to see things that you're going to see on the screen. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Well, what a group. Look at all these people. It's an honor to be with you guys. It's great to see the energy and the fact that all of you guys are logging on to a meeting like this, given what we are facing and what we have all processed over the last couple of months. Yep.
There you go. Yes.
It's backwards, but you can read it. Got that one at the convention this summer. You know, this is a unique time in American history. It's going to require the best of all of us, and I'm delighted to be with you to share any kind of insight that I've got. And I will share my screen here. Here we are, February 5th, 2024, in the midst of a coup. There is a lot of ground we need to cover here. Just for context, so I'm the executive director of Demcast USA. We're a 501c4 nonprofit organization founded in 2019. Recruit, empower, and deploy social media users across all platforms, across all geographies, to share pro-democracy content in their social media feeds and fight against disinformation on social media. Some things that we do to help support folks: we do content curation, we package the content that we curate and the messaging guidance that we receive from multiple sources, and we package it into social media toolkits and in an app called Reach that I'll tell you about, that probably a fair number of you have already a part of. So let's get into it. That's Demcast. We're getting our ass kicked. I'm sorry. I'd love to sugarcoat it for you, and anybody who's joining this already knows what's going on here. Trump didn't run a field campaign. They didn't knock doors. They didn't have to. They won this in the information scape. They have a dramatic head start in terms of social media reach and a lot more. They're supreme in corporate media. In terms of the cable news programming and all that. They continue to just dominate us across the board. and including instructional advantages, something that, since this is a conversation largely about sharing information on social, obviously we are up against it, not just because they have a lot more people sharing content, they have bigger accounts, all that kind of stuff, but also the algorithms are against us pretty much across the board. The owners of the social media platforms are not friendly to pro-democracy messaging. So we have to be tricky and sneaky and innovative to sort of get around all that stuff, make sure that factual information is actually reaching Americans. We have I basically said this, but we've got we're up against not just the MAGA movement, but Putin and other foreign actors who are, just spreading talking points daily, memes, graphics. It's a well-oiled machine. Demcast is an organization, but broadly, all of us who are fighting on social media against right-wing propaganda, we have, a specific niche in the left's digital influence ecosystem. So there's alternative media, which you could speak to podcasts, streamers, independent journalism. You have influencers. You have paid digital ads that organizations and campaigns can place to get messaging in front of people on social media platforms. And then you have this idea of what we call at Demcast the digital field team. These are activists, just regular people who have social media reach of from two followers to 200,000 followers, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have some level of influence and a digital footprint that you can utilize to help move the needle in terms of spreading a good message. In 2025, at least from the Demcast perspective, what we're trying to do is make sure that Americans understand the impact of Trump policies on their lives, the tariffs, the deportations, the inflation that's going to come from all this, whatever they do to the education system, all of this is going to impact people. And we need to make sure that people know that it is these policies, it is this administration, current administration, because they will try and blame everybody else, that is impacting their lives. We need more. I've been shouting this from the rooftops for years, and we can't have enough people doing this work. We need more people out there being purposeful about spreading messaging. We need to build our influence bench, and that's all of you. If you've got 50 followers on a social media platform, let's get you up to 500 followers. We need to build our influence bench. We need to boost our alternative media infrastructure, whether that's YouTube shows, podcasts. There was a lot said about Donald Trump really dominating in the podcast sphere, the broadcasts. We need to make sure that we are using individual social media accounts to propel left-leaning alternative media to get more subscribers, to get more notoriety, to get more known. That is a role that we can have in the ecosystem. And then we just want to keep morale up. This is a tough time. Everybody is struggling. A lot of people want to put their heads in the sand, and to the extent that we can give people things to do and help them feel like they can make a difference, we need to do that. So how do we do this? There's a variety of ways that you can make a difference on social media, regardless of whether you're on Reddit or Facebook or TikTok or Twitter. I don't call it X, Blue Sky, wherever you are. You can have an impact by just posting content on your feed, that the people who follow you can see. That is a key thing that you can do. We, as a community of digital activists, can amplify each other intentionally, make sure that we're interacting with each other's posts so that they move up in the algorithm so that more people see them, retweeting, reposting, all that kind of stuff that leads to account growth and building that bench that I was talking about. Social media, storming, swarming, digital rallies. This is where we all jump on social media at the same time to talk about the same topic, and very intentionally. The reason that we do this, as I'll indicate in a little bit, is that all talking about the same thing at the same time can actually pierce algorithmic bubbles that form around people, whether they are MAGA people or they're just like on social media because they care about music or baseball or whatever. Something that we do at Demcast is content curation. That just means finding content out there that's effective and proven, especially if it's proven to be effective in either mobilization or persuasion. Another thing that you can do if you have a social media account, you don't have to have a giant account. As I said, you can have 3 or 6 or 27 or 194 followers and still make a really big difference because of how social media algorithms work. Every time that you interact with a post, whether you're leaving a comment, whether you're liking it, whether you're reposting it, or whether if it's a video, watching the video all the way through from beginning to end, all of that moves content up in the algorithm and helps to show that content to more people. So the more that we have people out there who are intentionally doing algorithmic boosting of effective content, that is a really important part of the digital activism space. Something that we're going to do a lot more on the Demcast side, and I think that we need to do more broadly as a movement, is what I call disruptive commenting. If there's a viral MAGA post that's just going berserk. There has been advice since Trump first got into office that's floated around out there in activism spaces that if it's disinformation, people might disagree with me on this, but we can have a conversation about it. If there's disinformation in a post, don't interact with that post because it drives it up in the algorithm. And that's fine. If you see a post by somebody named Joe 653729735 Alpha or whatever, and they say something batshit crazy, like, yes, 100% do not engage with that post because engaging with it is going to show it to more people. If there is an already viral post that is spreading disinformation, one way that we can pierce the algorithmic bubble of the right and get some facts in front of these people is by commenting underneath that post. Because that post is already viral, your interaction is going to have a negligible impact on the amount that post travels. But if you drop some facts into the comment section and then we as a community all interact with that comment, that lifts the comment up toward the top of the comment section under that post so that more people are going to see it. This is a strategy that we're going to be deploying a lot more in the Trump 2.0 era. And then the other thing that we'd like to do is just make sure that we're cross-pollinating across platforms. So taking TikTok content and bringing it over to Twitter, screenshotting Twitter posts that are good messages and bringing them over, putting them over on Instagram so that we're all benefiting from the quality content that's appearing on all the different platforms. Where should we do all this work? Everywhere. And we get asked a lot, what platform should I be on? What's the most important place for me to be as a digital activist? We also get asked, are we just preaching to the choir? So I'll take these 2 questions. So I urge people to be wherever they can be, like maximize your digital footprint for sure, but only in places where you are going to persist. I will share candidly, I hate Facebook as a platform. I don't like Zuckerberg, but that's not why I don't like Facebook. It doesn't make sense to me. I didn't really use it early on, so I have no attachment to it. I don't really get how the algorithm works. It shows me random stuff, and I just don't like it. So I don't even try. There's only so many hours I have in the day. I am not going to spend a lot of my time trying to post things on Facebook. I technically have an account, but it's pretty idle. I tend to post on, formerly Twitter, less and less these days. Oh, I just drew out my slide. I like Blue Sky. That's great. It's got its own sort of audience that's more progressive, so that's more of a mobilization message. Instagram and TikTok, those are my places where I like to share information. So are we just preaching to the choir? No, we are not. Even if we're on Blue Sky, people, like I was talking about in terms of cross-pollination across platforms, ideas, comments, memes, they all move. If you feel like, let's say you're only comfortable on Blue Sky, which is at least at the moment largely a progressive platform, is that like useful? Yeah, it is, because those words that you share there might be seen by somebody who is on a lot of different platforms and can sort of transpose that information over to different social platforms. That's what the purpose of memes are. And also by all joining together across all social media platforms, as I said, at the same time. We call swarming, storming, digital rallies. That work can pierce those algorithmic bubbles and can make sure that people who don't normally consume political content see it. Also, just to be cheeky here, like if you're on social media lately, does it sound like a choir to you? Always on the left, we have a problem of people feeling dejected, people feeling like their voices don't matter, people feeling like they don't know what to do. And part of what we can do, in addition to debunking disinformation, is make sure that people on our side stay motivated, stay informed, and stay engaged in the fight. We need to be everywhere, basically. What is the messaging? It's gonna, I mentioned earlier, like broadly overall, obviously we're going to need to debunk this information as that disinformation comes. That's going to vary depending on the day. But more broadly, like making sure that the American public understands that the bad shit that's happening to them is Trump's fault is kind of an overall objective. But as an organization, Demcast, we keep our ear to the ground. We have lots of partnerships with organizations that do message testing, and we're always sharing that information with our network. Yeah, and it's the billionaire's fault. And just generally, yeah, we spent 8 years telling everybody that Donald Trump's an asshole and evil, and that America elected him again. So I think we need to just sort of ease up on the throttle in terms of talking about character and focus more on the impact of what he's doing to real people. And then just pick and choose your battles. There's going to be, as we said on our new podcast recently, there's going to be a fire hose of shit over the coming months and years. We can't get rattled by absolutely everything. The example I shared was the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is just stupid. But that kind of stuff, they're going to keep throwing out that kind of stuff to just make people mad and make people talk about that, so that we're not talking about the really impactful, terrible things that they're doing from a policy perspective. So Demcast, I'll just really quick run through this one. Some ways that we've evolved as an organization in the Trump 2.0 era. We're focusing more on security. We're trying to expand. We have a centralized library of content on the Reach app that we're going to really focus on building a lot. We want to help lift up the left's alternative media infrastructure. So like use our social media accounts to share content from podcasts and streamers and whoever, whoever needs a higher profile because they're trying to fill that sort of alternative media space on the left. And we have started our own podcast / YouTube show. It's called The Dangerous Ones. It's a collaboration with my besties in the world, Jim and Tiffany from 11 Films. That our first episode came out last Thursday. We'd love to have y'all consume that. The approach we're taking with this show is to have it be not feel like a fire hose of shit. We want people to feel like it's they're getting informed, but in an entertaining way, and that they have a community of people who are watching and us who are on the show, who are kind of in the same boat and the same mindset of like, this is really terrible. We need to keep living our lives, but we also need to like make an impact and fix all this stuff. I'll won't even go through these. I'm going to share the slides. These are ways that you can support our work at Demcast. And then just to walk through sort of levels of engagement with us as an organization, the easiest way to get involved with Demcast, if you're interested, is to subscribe to the Digital Drumbeat, which is our Substack newsletter, generally a daily post or so. And that is really focused on digital activism. Like, what can you do in your day today to spread quality information or learn about quality information. We talk about digital rallies, that kind of thing in that newsletter. If you want to get texts when we're swarming social media, you can text resist to that phone number. And then if you want to get deeper with Demcast, we have, as I mentioned, the Reach app, which is a content library that has constantly updated fresh content that's pro-democracy, anti-disinformation oriented, and generally boosting of Democrats, because Democrats are the anti-fascist party. We also have chat and strategy groups on a encrypted chat app called Signal. We moved all of our operations in terms of our community off of social media platforms, which we don't feel like are safe anymore in terms of direct message groups. And so we've gone through a slog of moving all that over to the Signal app. And this is what the page looks like if you want to go sign up. And it's at demcast.com/team. So that is, those are my slides. I tried to run through those quick so we could just have more of a conversation.
Linda, do you want to go ahead and ask some of the questions?
We have a lot of questions. Okay. So you shared obviously how to get involved with Demcast. If somebody is kind of just starting, where do you recommend they start? Should they just go to Demcast, and that's a good way to learn how to get involved?
So also couple different answers. If you are just getting started in that you are new to you don't really use social media very much, and you're just getting involved on set, I'd say probably the first place I would go is to the Digital Drumbeat, our newsletter. We will always post when we're doing trainings, and it'll give you sort of a slow motion lay of the land. But if you want to jump in and get some support, you can go to the demcast.com/team, and we have volunteer leaders who help people sort of figure out how to be effective on social media. That's what we're here for.
Okay, and Candace will talk about this later, but we do have our Truth Brigade on every other Friday, and it's a very informal discussion, and we post things, and we always learn from each other. So if you're kind of new, that's not a bad place to come either. And believe me, we always learn something, even those of us that have been doing it for a while. Where do you get your news, and what sources do you recommend for people to kind of stay informed but get overwhelmed?
It's a great question. I think that we need to be concerned to a certain degree with the influence that the Trump administration is going to have on traditional media over the coming years. Outside of like NPR, right? These are for-profit businesses with shareholders. They're concerned about profits, and I just think that we need to have a good degree of concern about going there and trusting what's happening over time on those programs. I still, subscribe to the New York Times and the Washington Post, and even though these are, I mean, Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, but there's still quality reporting that happens in those places. And until I feel like that's not the case anymore, I'll still subscribe. I love Substack. For those of you who aren't on Substack, I think you should try it. It's a really interesting and sort of decentralized news and information space where there are independent journalists and activists and other similar folks who are kind of have a specific lane that they're of information that they're sort of pursuing. And there's some really great investigative journalism on there. Popular Information is a really, really high quality, investigative group on Substack. And there's also just really great, sort of like Chop Wood, Carry Water is Jess Craven's Substack newsletter that gives real daily things that they can do based on what the news cycle is and what's needed of regular citizens. So yeah, I have found myself since the election veering more toward like independent sources, but we all have to be wary of that too, right? In terms of like what's the quality of the information, and that's something that we as a community of can help each other figure out.
Yeah, somebody asked about Heather Cox Richardson, and she's definitely a person to add to your list.
Yep. The Midas guys are on there. There's some good content there. I mean, there's a lot. Yeah.
All right. So somebody had asked, do you think, and maybe you've had these conversations, that Hollywood publicists can give more insight into reaching people on social media, or is it a whole different ballgame?
I think that there's yes, in the sense that the Trump won, again, I said Trump won in the information scape. And he, in part, did that by going on all these like broadcasts, right? And like the other side, including a lot of young men, think that he's cool. And that is an exceptional PR. They really built up this man who's been stiffing his workers and raping women for decades into this like quasi hero. And so I think that there's a place. I definitely think that thinking outside the box of Democratic Party messaging is a good idea, because that sure isn't working. And definitely having more of a character arc narrative approach is probably smart. So yeah, let's draft some of those folks.
So the next question it's interesting given what you just said. So somebody was wondering if it would make sense for our our Democratic members of Congress to do monthly communications addressing specifically propaganda. Would that be useful? And because I don't know if many do that. I mean, they might talk about, bills or whatever, but actually addressing the falsehoods.
It's just tough because people generally across America don't know who Democrats are. There isn't a whole lot of authority there. And so coming out and doing press conferences don't really work anymore, doing a press release. They're still doing it, but it doesn't work. Folks like AOC, who understand how to communicate strategically on social media, that could be effective. It could be effective for specific people who get how to communicate and who have built a following. But like, if you are an unknown random congressman from Colorado or something like that, like doing some kind of spiel on disinformation, I'm not sure is going to really move the needle. It could be that there are other emissary type folks who could pull that off, whether they're somebody like a Trey Crowder, who's a really funny Southern comedian who does just rant style TikTok and Instagram Reels videos, or the Mark Hamills of the world, who have immense reach. I think reach is the more important thing than who's saying it at this point in the.
This is outside of social media, but I'm curious because how people react to things is something that you're obviously attuned to. Somebody was asking about us doing, and I don't even know how you organize it, a general strike. Other countries have done it.
I'm just going to jump into a little bit of soapbox Nick here. I think that ultimately our way out of this is something that looks more like a class war than a political war. What these Musk coming in and grabbing all the information from the Treasury, the assistant Secretary of Defense is the CEO of Cerber, a firm that has all kinds of holdings in defense contracting. I mean, they're coming in to fleece us. Let's be honest, like that's what's actually happening here. And so I think that eventually, when this is all said and done, a working person's focused uprising against wealthy elites is probably the thing that works better than red versus blue. That's my personal opinion on the subject.
Okay.
So yes, eventually maybe a general strike is the answer, potentially.
Okay. So this one, I think you've given ideas of how do we, push back. But the question was basically, the Democratic and I think small d process is so slow, and they're moving at lightning fast pace. How do you even keep up? And how do we, push back? Obviously, you've talked about tools to do that, but
So we gave some advice on our first episode of the podcast that I kind of stand behind, which is because again, I said it's going to be a fire hose of shit. They're trying to light the entire thing on fire. They're trying to dismantle the federal government from the inside. We've seen that, that OMB memo came out that froze loans and grants. There was a huge uproar. They walked it back. There is still stuff that we can do. But as the cabinet officials get fully appointed and they get their legs under them in their departments, they're going to be really attacking the the federal government writ large. And so the advice that we gave on the show last week: keep it at a distance to a certain extent. Like, don't get absorbed and obsessed with absolutely every single shitty thing that they're doing, as I was kind of getting at with the Gulf of America bullshit. Like, pick your battle, and like maybe pick a lane, as an activist. Maybe the thing that you want to pour your heart and soul as an activist into is protecting healthcare for Americans from attacks on the ACA, or rolling back Medicaid, or whatever. Maybe it's maybe it's climate, maybe it's veterans issues, but maybe just like focus and pick a lane, and then find organizations that are doing work in that space and subscribe to all their emails. Like, get that information, and then use that lens as your social presence, so that you are contributing to the conversation in a sort of a streamlined way, so that you can become known as somebody who talks eloquently and interestingly about a topic that you about. We're exploring on the Demcast side, like creating teams around either cabinet, office, federal departments, or issue areas, where we can kind of like be watchdogs. And so if this week something really weird is going down with the Veterans Administration, like the folks who are focused on that can lift it for the rest of us and say like, hey, we need people to show up about this week, because this is a crucial moment for our veterans and their healthcare, or whatever. I think it's still like, we're all still trying to feel out exactly how to be most effective in this new space, but that's just some advice, I guess.
Okay. I think you've kind of covered this. How do we get the message out that Dems are not the enemy, the billionaires are? And I think what you talked about is explaining the ordinary people, right? So that way people can actually see the impact of these policies, rather than just saying, these people are all horrible.
Yep. Yeah. And the fleecing. And so like really tuning into what there's like, was it 13 or 16 billionaires in this administration, right? I mean, this is an unprecedented level of wealth in an administration, including Trump's first administration. Like, this takes it to a completely different level, even if you take Elon Musk out of it. So, focusing in on, as policies come through these departments, and program changes and all that, like, who's benefiting from that? And it's going to be the person who's at the top of the organization or sons. And so just really trying to inform people about that, and the sort of the fleecing that's happening, and that it's all American taxpayer dollars that are going to, fund the inflation of the bank accounts of all of the who are closely connected to Trump.
Okay, here's one that I'm sure you can answer in one sentence. So, question is, there's multiple comments. I don't understand the gullibility of persons for misinformation and disinformation. Education failing will not help this situation. What do you think? And you could probably write a book about it, but Quick answer.
The disintegration slash intense spreading out of the media environment. It used to be there was like Walter Cronkite, and Tom Brokaw, and those were your guys, those were your people where you go for your information and you could trust it. And the combination of social media, companies not embracing the incredible responsibility that they have given the current media environment to crack down on disinformation it's a huge fail. Regulating how those social media platforms operate has been devastating, absolutely devastating.
And it's probably too late.
And it's not getting better.
Right.
Not anytime soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've seen this question in a couple spots, or the same concept is, do we want to identify as left-leaning as we're trying to, talk about or push back on misinformation, or what's the best way to describe ourselves if left becomes a, bad word?
I have leaned toward urging our social media team to take references to political leanings, and especially the Democratic Party, out of their social media bios. There's just just as I, when I click on a profile and see Trump is number one, MAGA, make America great again, in somebody's profile, I'm automatically dismissive of the person. So if our goal is to pierce some bubbles and get into some conversations with some people who might not otherwise listen to us, I think it's probably pretty strategic to not identify with a party or with a political leaning. I think it can differ depending on the platform. On Blue Sky, which is, as I mentioned, pretty left-leaning, like, I don't think it matters too much. I think that's fine. You're sort of identifying yourself as a member of the tribe, and it's relatively a tribe-oriented platform at the moment, but that might change. But yeah, in general, I'd say, yeah, just be a person, be a human, who's experiencing hardship, who's concerned about the path of the nation, and that might help people listen to you a little bit more.
Okay, thanks. This only mentions 2 platforms, but generally, the question is, okay, if I use Facebook and especially Twitter, for Facebook, am I giving money to Musk, or I'm sorry, to Zuckerberg, and Twitter, am I giving it to Musk? What's the weighing of helping them make more money versus trying to get the message out?
I really think I go back to what I said about be where you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable being on those platforms for any reason, whether it's just the aesthetics of the platform or the person who owns it, and that's going to make you not want to post on that platform, then don't be on that platform. If you feel comfortable on a platform, we need to be everywhere. Like, that's my take. That's my organization's take. Eating ground in general is just not going to help in this space. And yes, maybe I'm going to make Elon Musk, an extra $20 by being on Twitter, but maybe I can do more damage to him and to his to this administration, or economic damage.
Got it.
So
thanks.
Yep.
You've answered this already, but it brought other questions. So basically, you said, if a post is not viral, probably best not to respond to it and give it more air, and do it separately. But a couple questions came in then is, how do you know if something is viral or not? Like, how do you figure that out?
I mean, generally, if you're probably you're not monitoring right-wing social media. It's just a guess. If you are, if something has you look at the amount of time that the post has been out and the number of interactions that it has, and if it seems disproportionately large, then that means it's traveling well. Whether what viral means is, there's no real definition for that. If you are on a platform and you don't follow any kind of MAGA propaganda and you see a post, then it is probably viral. Unless it's a comment underneath one of your posts or somebody else's posts, right? In which case, like, in all likelihood, it's not super useful to get into a fist fight with those folks. I would just say, if you have the ability to hide that comment, hide it, and then block that account.
Okay. So this is a good one. What is the best way to push back this? I don't know if this is somebody that has a Republican representative, but it really doesn't matter. What's the best way to push back lies that are told by our representatives? Should we respond to their posts in that case, or what's the best approach?
Yes. For the case of elected representatives, absolutely. Give them everything. Give them the what for. Quote, tweet it. Quote it if you're on a platform where you can quote something, comment, and then follow it up with a call to the office and say, hey, I just saw this bullshit on social media. What the fuck are you guys doing?
Can we quote you on that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. This is a question about bots and AI especially, but in bots. Is it impossible to counter that? Like, are we just gonna, we're gonna keep trying, and are we just not enough to push back against something that's so automatic?
It's a concern. I guess I'd just say that bots are extremely inauthentic, and authenticity carries the day on social media. In general, it's a real concern. AI is a real concern. AI generated content is a real concern. We need to look at how we're utilizing AI technology, not to create fake videos of people that didn't really happen, but to use AI to expedite the creation of content in certain cases is something that we need, as a movement, we need to make sure that we're looking at and investing in, as long as it's not, spreading left-leaning propaganda, as a result, right? Or disinformation. It's a complicated question, but like, we have to believe that we can win this war. And we just have to have the resolve to engage in it, or else they will 100% for sure win it.
Got it. Yep. We can't give up. Okay. This is an easy one for you. When people do posts, should they tag Demcast?
We never have our folks. We never advise our folks to use like a Demcast hashtag or to necessarily tag the Demcast account on any given platform, because in general, those the cleaner a post is, the more it'll travel generally. If you're talking about a Blue Sky or a Twitter or a Threads, the more like blue text that you have, whether that's a hashtag or a tagged account, the less that post is going to travel in general, as a general rule. People like to engage with authentic, clean content. We try and we do have, as an organization, we have some hashtags that we use that are issue specific, because those hashtags carry a message in themselves. So for gun violence prevention content, the Demcast team uses the hashtag dying for gun safety. We have a variety of, hashtags that we use that are issue specific, because it doesn't identify as like being an organization or identify as being a Democrat or political leaning. It carries a message. And the reason that we do that is because it helps. Having a hashtag in something helps us as an organization evaluate our impact, because social listening software can scroll the internet and find out like how many people have viewed that hashtag, and if it's like a Demcast specific hashtag, we're able to track our metrics with it, which is helpful for us. But we also feel like doing it that way is a little bit less is going to be a little bit more effective from a messaging standpoint than tagging a group or using a partisan tag.
Okay, thanks. This is an interesting question about local versus federal, I guess. Do you think it's more effective when you're dealing when the battleground is local versus trying to change things in Washington? And they gave the example of somebody in Pennsylvania, a township supervisor who was doing the Musk Nazi salute and got kicked out.
Local social media work can be extremely effective because the volume of posts at the local level are so much smaller that that it gets more attention from local press. If people are getting called out on social media, like the media, the newspaper media, television media is driven by social media now. Like they track social media really well. They'll create stories out of social media fanfare and hubbub. It's harder to do just from an organizing standpoint. As a national organization, it's super hard to like organize people at the hyper local level. But I would definitely say track what your local folks are doing and engage with them on social media and learn the news outlets of the local area and their social media handles and tag them and stuff. Because even if you only get 3 or 4 shares on a comment under a post, if you tag a news organization, it can end up snowballing.
There's a question that I won't read the whole thing, but I think the gist of it is, does it make sense to have if you have a pretty much political type account, does it make sense to create a different one, which is apolitical, where you can get a better sense of how things are showing up under both? Does that help you understand the algorithms at all? Or
I don't know that creating an apolitical account would help. I think because apolitical accounts are probably not going to see political content. It's kind of a journey you don't need to take. I have a Twitter alt for myself that is focused on Major League Baseball because I'm a huge baseball fan. I never see political content in the feed on that account unless it's like a super viral post, which I was saying, which is where I was talking about like piercing algorithmic bubbles, and doing social storming can help pierce those bubbles. But I would say if you want to experiment, create a dummy MAGA account. You can get a taste of what the other side's saying. I mean, that can be useful in terms of understanding what disinformation is spreading on the other side. We have a number of folks on Demcast who do that and feed us information about that. I don't have the stomach for it personally.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. I once went to a fundraiser for a Republican where you didn't have to pay, and it was my representative, and it was enlightening to hear what he said to other Republicans. It was just Republicans. So yes, let's see. That was kind of the same one. I'll answer this one, and maybe Candace can include it in an email. Somebody was asking about a quick class on understanding blue sky. I don't know if you have anything, Nick. We actually did one of our sessions on blue sky, so we do have a video. But is there a spot in on your sites anywhere?
We have if you go to the Demcast USA YouTube channel, we have a blue sky training that is up that we did about a month ago.
Okay.
That has Jamie and Lori walking through sort of how to use it, what it's, how to optimize it, that kind of stuff. I'll send you guys the link to that so that you can include it in a follow-up or whatever.
Yeah, we'll be sending out the information tomorrow with the slides and a link to the recording, so everybody will get it tomorrow.
You had talked, Nick, about flooding the zone. Can you just explain that a little bit more, and how do people do that?
I mean, it's by posting. There's two main things that you can do to flood the zone with helpful content. The first is to just post natively to your social media accounts. And then the second is to algorithmically boost. By algorithmically boost, I mean, interact with content that is helpful. So that means commenting, do all of the above. Comment, repost, like, quote, whatever you're able to do on the social platform. On Reddit, it's upvoting, just whatever you can do is helpful. That just helps more people see the content that is helpful. The other thing I'll say is like engage in digital rallies. If you subscribe to our digital drumbeat Substack or a text list, or if you sign up with Demcast, we work with lots of different organizations across the country, Boat Vets, Sierra Club, SEIU, who have sort of digital days of action, and we try and help everybody plug into those so that we're all talking about an important topic at the same time to help pierce those algorithmic bubbles.
And I know you definitely have this, but if you can explain it, they wanted to know where to get some meme content. So you want to explain your library?
Yeah, I mean, I could show you really quick if
Yeah, that's fine. If you just want to share the screen, you should be able to still.
Yeah, just hang on a sec. Let me make sure I'm signed in here first. Okay, so share screen. Okay, so this is just one place where you can get content. Reach is an app, both a phone app and a web-based app that you can use to get get content that speaks to the billionaire oligarchy or whatever. If you join us, if you go to demcast.com/team and join us, you'll get access to this. And you have a recent content feed that shows you all the stuff that you haven't looked at yet. We have different galleries, Republican accountability, daily call to action, Project 2025. And then down here we have labels. So if you really want to, if you're focused on immigration, you want to post on immigration, you can click on that. There's content there. And if you join us, we help you through how to do all this stuff. There's also some chat functionality with
Nick, I'm sorry. I just muted everybody so you unmute yourself. Thanks.
Yeah, so there's also some chat functionality within Reach. We have some community groups in here. We have a no politics group, which people more or less stay pure to. We have platform specific groups where people can share posts from that they're posting on different platforms. And then there's also an action feed that has. We share messaging guidance. This is like our messaging top lines from Leader Jeffries get posted when they come out. And then you can click here and access the messaging guidance and then create social posts out of it. So that's just one place. I mean, there's other sort of mimetic warfare centers, as they're sort of referred to technically, where you can get meme content. Into Action is a great meme and GIF library. Just Google Into Action. My friend Yossi helps lead that effort, and they do amazing quality content. And then I think other than that, just like follow accounts that seek out and follow accounts that share mimetic content, and just take it. I mean, that's literally what a meme is for, is to spread like wildfire, and for people to grab. You don't have to ask permission to use somebody else's meme. You can just grab it, and that's kind of the idea. And if they throw up a stink about it, then they don't understand what the game is here.
Okay, this one's an interesting one, which of course this is not your responsibility, but just curious if you've heard anything. Somebody was asking if we're recruiting any billionaires that think like us, that have our values, to buy broadcasting platforms. Right.
It would be great.
If only, right?
Yeah, I mean, please
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know some billionaires who might be interested.
Okay, well, you call them.
Yeah, give them a call, Jeffrey.
Patriotic billionaires. They're called a patriotic.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know the group. I know that group. Put your money where your mouth is. I'm just not saying that.
Exactly.
I've been saying that to Mark Cuban for 3 weeks.
Yep. Mark Cuban's a good one. Yeah.
I think I'm sure there's more, but I don't know. Do you want me to keep going, Candace, or you're on mute?
Sorry. I think we're good. We've got 15 minutes left, and I would like to go through our links, which include some of your stuff. So I would like so people can see them, and then we'll send them out. So let me share my screen, and just going to share a few things. Hold on, slideshow. Okay, this one. Okay, can you see that? Great. Okay. So I went through this before at the beginning, but just so you guys, I'll send these slides so you know that what Truth Brigade is, that we're part of Indivisible National, and what we do is work to create messages to counter disinformation and to spread the truth and to share our values to bring people together to fight the MAGA agenda. And we generally share these 5 tips to communicate effectively. First one was don't amplify disinformation or negative messaging. Don't respond at all. I'll take Nick's advice on the fact that if it's viral, if you can get people to focus on your replies and put something on there, that actually makes sense to me. But in general, you're better off not drawing people's attention to negative information. And don't forget that on Facebook, you can hide somebody's nasty response. So our methodology, and you can join us on our Friday meetings if you want to learn more about this, is we make our own post using a truth sandwich, which basically is a shared truth. We call out a bad actor, and then we state the truth again. So this is an example of that, which you can see. And then we're big followers of Freedom Over Fascism. This is their messaging that they're putting out there right now. Where the many can fight the money. So there's some really good messaging that you can follow with them. And I want to share those resources. And this is the theory behind the messaging, is that we hopefully open minds. I know there are a lot of closed minds, and get people to check sources and check their assumptions and ask who's behind this negative messaging that's coming out there, and why do they want to piss me off, basically. Sorry. And then give them a reason, a vision, or an inspiration. So that's the theory. And then it's always hard to fight when people are lying or willing to lie. What we try to do is use links to credible news sources to the extent they exist, and put graphics with your post. And then we tend to, Nick, I take your point as well. I've heard that if you have more than 2 hashtags, that it takes away from it. I do think people like authenticity, so I think you can look at it a couple different ways. But if you do hashtag, people can find you. So it's a way to track things. So that's one of those things that you can go both ways on. And what we try to do is amplify other people's messages, like Demcast. And the social media storms are really very effective. So look out for those. So so basically create or find effective messages and share and repeat. And Linda, do you want to go over what you can do right now?
Yeah, and I think this was actually a question in there. So we came up with 2 ideas. First of all, if you're on social media, which I'm guessing most of the people on here today are, but you may not be, just spend a few minutes. Somebody had made the comment, is like, how much time do we have to spend on this? Well, whatever you have. Some people have more time, some people have less, but kind of commit to several times a week, spending a few minutes checking for posts that that look like it's misleading, and then look for a good source so you can find out, hey, is that true or not? And if it's not, create a new post, again, assuming it's not viral. Create a new post where you can kind of explain, you don't have to use a truth sandwich, just explain that, there was some false information going around. Here's some information that actually tells the truth. So just kind of get in the habit of doing that. And, at first you may you might not have that big of a following, but if you can just get one person, it starts to, obviously people can get out of that bubble and out of that cult. It happens. So we have to keep trying. And then if you're not on social media, you'll still have, if you're on your phone, you have articles that pop up, you're reading the newspaper, or other sources, or you hear your representative obviously saying something false. There's always letters to the editor. You don't always get accepted, but it's good practice to kind of figure out how you want to word things and how can you explain things in pretty not a lot of words. And even if you don't get it into the local paper, you've kind of practiced it. So if you're having a conversation with family, neighbors, or friends, you're ready with information. So even if your letter doesn't get in the paper, you've got it in your head now. So when you're having a conversation, you might be better prepared to go again, to not argue, but to help people understand that something is not true.
Yeah, and I second with Linda. You do not have to spend your life on social media. Sometimes if I'm messing with my phone and I have 5 minutes, I can go to my Blue Sky account, do a quick search for Demcast or somebody that I trust. And then you can share. We try to spend time creating our own messages, but you can also spread the word by looking at what other people are doing and liking it and sharing it. And it goes a long way. So there really is a lot you can do with a little bit of however much time you have. Oh, and then this actually, Bill raised this. Bill Davis is one of our team leads too. And when you're looking at your sources, check out this media bias chart. I will show it to you. And Bill, I don't know, do you want to chime in and talk about how this works?
Yeah, if you can show it, that would be great. I cannot right now, but I think everybody else can see it.
Oh.
It's from Adfontes Media. It's ADFONTES Media, MEDIA.com. And what they do is they're an organization that rates all news sources, all podcasts from all different angles. And they literally, on a graph left to right, start with the most liberal, and then on the very far right, the most conservative, and in the center, they have people that are right in the center of the political conversation. What is really cool about that is from top to bottom, at the very top, it is those that really source their information and check their information. So if you're in the center, a little bit to the left or the right, and on the very top, these are the media sources that you can trust. If you go down to the very bottom, these are both left and right, and in that center are media sources that just pump stuff out and have no key for where information is. The actual chart, when you go online, it is interactive. So you can, if you look at the graphic, there's so much information there, it's hard to see. You can literally look up one or a series of things, but it's great for your groups or your people to see where the information, where it is solid.
I see that Fox and Friends is pretty far to the right there. And
yes, yeah.
Is all the way at the right and bottom. So that's basic. Yeah, this is great. I have not used this. I see CBS Evening News is right there in the middle at the top. So, and PBS NewsHour is supposed to be a little bit to the left. But yeah, this is great information. When you click on it, it takes you to more information about it and the score and where it comes from. So this is a great source. It isn't something I've been using, but I think it's a great one for people to check. When you Google something and you get a thing that says it's an article that comes from the Jacobin, right? This will give you an idea of that's biased left, but it's, let's see, a wide variation in reliability, right? So yeah, so it's good to know. It's a great source. So thank you. So yes,
I just posted the link in the chat somewhere in this huge chat.
Okay, and it's in our slides too. So we'll send that out.
Thank you.
So, and then this is on the slide. So there's some sources of effective messages. Truth Brigade National has messaging. They have this link, you can click on it. It takes it, they have this they have a whole series of messages and graphics, and you can just click on it and share it on various sources and just cut and paste it in there. So it makes it really easy. Another group that we're big fans of is Anat Shankar-Osorio and Mike Podhorser's Freedom Over Fascism movement briefing. They have a messaging toolkit. And actually, they have a briefing tomorrow, Thursday, February 6th at 2 p.m. Central. And the link here, you can register for that. They are actually, Linda or Jackie, can you put that in the chat if somebody wants to register tonight? And then Demcast, as you know, we're a big fan of Demcast on Blue Sky and X and Threads. And also James and Tiffany Drastic, their 11 films. If you go to YouTube, they have some fantastic messaging. And the newest, they have a teal and orange report with Nick. And actually, Nick, can you stick that in the link to the dangerous ones in the teal and orange report in there? That would be good, because that's good to listen to. And if you want, you can sign up for the National Truth Brigade, and you'll get notices of the meeting and emails and links to their sharers. And they're having a kickoff call next Wednesday for the year. There's Truth Brigade 5.0, Resistance and Resilience in the Disinformation Age. So that is next Wednesday, 5:30 Central Time, and you can register for that. And that's a great and helpful source as well. And then I'll send these out. There's their national website. There's a study on how reminding people not to spread disinformation helps. They also have a workshop on the fourth Wednesday of every month. And they have an email list, and that Truth Brigade campaign I showed you is Speechify, so you can easily share on social media. And then if you want to find us, Truth Brigade Illinois, we have our sandwich shops every other Friday from noon to 1:30, and we just do a working group posting and sharing messaging. So you can register for that. And here are all of our links and our Facebook group. So that is a quick look at all of that information, and we will send it out. I don't know, Linda, is there anything else in I'm going to stop sharing. We'll send that. I know it's a lot of information. We heard a lot of good stuff tonight. Is there anything else, Nick, that you want to add? Or that anybody has a final comment on?
So I did see somebody ask, and this has nothing to do, I'm sorry, Nick, this has nothing to do with messaging, really our messaging, but somebody was asking about, where are there protests? I would suggest that if you're interested in physical, rallies, etc., go to Indivisible National, and you can find chapters, you can find information about what they're doing. It's a very effective group. We're all involved with it in some way. So if you're looking for a physical thing to do, I would start with Indivisible National. Sorry, Nick, you started talking.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. No, I was just going to say I don't have anything else to add. I think this has been.
Is it possible to say something?
Sure. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Becky.
Same
I'm from
here.
Virginia. Please do not forget that there are 2 gubernatorial races this year. There's going to be 3 special elections for people that Trump has taken from Congress. Taken from the House. If we can flip those, that's the big deal. So please get involved. Find out about these races. You don't even have to be in the area to make phone calls or to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, and I know there was a lot of chat. We were trying to focus on disinformation and how you deal with social media. There was a lot in the chat about the concerns about everything that's going on now. And people are protesting. People are showing up. We went on downtown Chicago today, and I am happy to report that we're getting feedback that a lot of the centers they're finally getting in tune with one another and are going to fight back harder, and we've got to keep pushing them to fight back, and we can do that on social media and with messaging. I think no one is not taking all of this seriously, and it is a coup, and we do have to keep on fighting anywhere we can.